All right, so I just want to take a look at the IQ chart um, and see what's going on. A lot of talk and a lot of anger over the money lost on this stock, but of course, completely my bad trading's fault. As you can see, if you scroll back, there is a long-term from the IPO trend line cutting through the middle. So it's a nice cut through trend line. Some people like to put them on the bottom, but clearly that wouldn't work because how would you get from here to like over there? But long-term trend line in that. So stock takes off, shoots up to a high. It's about when all the trade war stuff got going crazy, but people want to be like, oh, it's all China and the trade war and all that. But in reality, when you look at it, you have a stock that ran up from IPO. Volume goes crazy at the high. Ramping up volume, you can see a little ramp. And then, of course, sells off. So kind of your normal pump and dump. So the stock runs up to a crazy high, 3 times from its low, 300% increase, and then dumps all the way back down to the long-term trend line. Pretty simple. So the goes down to long-term trend line, pulls up about halfway back up to the high. This is normal. This would be your, cup and handle pattern, or sometimes you get like the W. That's what you're looking for, the breakout of that handle forming the W. So the stock forms the cup, and then it comes back down to the long-term trend line, back here, forming the handle. So it then forms. But you also notice, if you draw the line from the high to the high of the cup, makes that down trend line. In that is the stock itself consolidates directly in between the downtrend line and the long-term trend line at also happens to be the VWAP. So pretty funny there. That, if you imagine people want to talk about market manipulators and pumping and dumping and all of this stuff, but really when you think about it, all you can say is in hindsight, right? The stock ran up to an extreme overbought value, fell back to the long-term trend line, consolidated from that trend line along the VWAP into earnings. Earnings, while the shares grew and revenue grew, it actually missed on earnings per share, a little extra losses. So if you talk about those little bit of extra losses, plus added in the weakness in the Chinese market, the devalued yuan, and all of that, the market decided that it did not want to go back to highs. There was nothing saying, yes, you need to go back to highs, especially for an unprofitable company, right? If this was a company that was making money hand over foot, you might see more consolidation, more just hanging out. But instead, people thought, not a great investment now, I will wait. And thus, it continued the downtrend. So now you can see immediately had a little fall a couple days after earnings, pull back a little bit, consolidate back to the downtrend line, and now it's going to fall again. So you'll probably see it fall down a little more, downtrend line, and so on. If you want to figure out how far it's going to fall, right, you can kind of put lines in, in here. You'll notice that long-term trend line happened to also match perfectly up with this touches, and then all of this price action right along that. And so, of course, as it fell to here, right around here, you can see it playing along that trend line. People want to consume, we'll have to touch the trend line exactly. Not always. You break it, but then it immediately gets back above it, right? Then you go down to it, you break it, but it's back above. So, you're going to see that. There's a lot of movement up and below it. You're breaking that price action, but it's closing above it, breaking it, closing above it, holding, breaking but holding above. Very bullish sign. So here it continues to break, get back above while it's waiting, and then as it gets back to the trend line, that then gives it the power to say, down you go. Thus, down we go, and now we're actually going to see it's only midday here and already more volume than yesterday. So we're going to see volume up. You'll probably see this break 25 tomorrow with uneven increased volume, so you have that ramping volume, and then at that point you'll have a little climb back up, maybe a consolidation until the trend line comes along again, and then we'll see. But nonetheless, you're just following simply the trend line. So it's broken this line. Where to fall to? 25, even though it's not a huge long-term pivot, it is a big dollar amount, so you'll probably see some price action there. But really, this is going to be your next look, right? So if you got the touches here, some price action right along here, finally, and then the break before the run. So right around 23.30 in that is really your next major pivot. So like I said, you might see a little price action here, but this is the next major pivot is 23.30, which is, so if you're really patient, you can wait for that. And then, of course, maybe it doesn't get all the way to 2030, it bounces around and breaks trend up. But really, you're looking for a break and a close above trend, downtrend to signal a reversal. So that's what we're looking for, folks. I, of course, am long-term bullish on this, have 2020 calls, but I also do have $25 puts, more short-term, waiting for this to fall back down. As it hits 25, we'll watch price action there, and then, of course, into 23.30, 23.30, and price action there to see if that is where we get the start of the rebound, and I'll start to flip those $25 calls into more long-term bullish calls, and then wait for the reversal and the run. So, all right.